everyone, my name is Lance, and this is Amped About Aimpad. For today's episode, I thought it might be fun to jump into the Cooler Master ControlPad software and explore what's kind of possible to do some unique things with the ControlPad that maybe you didn't think about before. I also want to spend a little bit of time going into how to add analog support and mouse aiming on a particular game that was not previously possible until very recently. So, let's jump into it.
So this is the Cooler Master Master Plus software. This is version 2.0.6, and I wanted to kind of highlight some of the different things you can do with ControlPad, and thought it might be useful just to kind of give a brief overview of what's possible. So the first tab you have here at the top is lighting, and it's pretty standard across lots of different software, but lots of different options. You can create different lighting patterns and identify certain ways to lay out the keys and things like that, but more or less it's all just taking care of coloring. It's nothing super unique out of there at this point that I wanted to share. Key mapping is pretty extensive, so you have a lot of different interfaces on the ControlPad that you can program, and so it's as simple as basically on the left you select what type of input you want to map, and then you select the key that you want to remap. It'll highlight what's currently mapped, and if you want to change it to something else on the keyboard, like an enter key or something like that, it will automatically update that. So it gives you kind of an easy way to interact with those keys. There's also possible to do anything with the mouse. You can move the cursor up and down and left and right. You can do left clicks and right clicks and all those forward clicks and back clicks and everything else. So that's all part of that mapping function. Media, you have all your media keys. You can program these to be pause and play and stop and increase and decrease volume, things like that. Macro is pretty extensive. We'll go into that in just a little bit, but it allows you to assign a macro if you've already created a macro for this profile. Game Controller allows you to map any of these keys, both to analog and digital buttons. Again, you just select a key and then just choose which button or axis you want to map it to. Pretty straightforward. Application is right now tied to just Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and Illustrator, but you can see within here, let's say I want to make the R key be a Photoshop blur button, and it will automatically change it to the mapping for the blur function, or the brush size increase, and hardness, and clone stamp, and everything that you might be experienced with Photoshop, and it gives you a nice little visual indicator of that function as well. Dual action is basically allowing you to assign a keyboard press or a mouse press or movement or media key at the top of the press. So let's say I select the keyboard and I want to have the A key, and then I would apply it, and then on the bottom part of it I want it to be the B key, and I would apply that. So at the 50% point it will make an action of the A key, and at the very bottom it will make an action of the B key. So you can stack your certain functions and things like that. Aimpad functions just has one right now. It's just the calibrate function, so if you want to assign a button to put the ControlPad into calibration mode to recalibrate the keys, you can do that. Backlight allows you to control the effects, so if you want like a spinning effect to happen and you want to increase the speed, you can adjust that with the speed up effect, and then you can also do the speed down effect. You can make the LEDs brighter or darker, as well as cycle from one effect to another. So there's the listing of effects here. You have rainbow wave and crosshair and things like that. You can have it so you push a button and it will switch to the next or to the previous mode in those mappings. Profile allows you to do some unique things that you can say, I want this specific key, V key, to be my profile 1. So every time I switch to, or every time I press that key right there, it will switch the ControlPad to profile 1. And you have 24 different profiles, which is amazing, but it can allow you to have 24 keys mapped to individual profiles. So I'll kind of dive into a little bit of what you can do there. And then profile cycle just allows you to increase from profile 1 to profile 2 and 2 to 3. That would be increasing, as well as the reverse, going from 3 to 2 and 2 to 1 would be the profile cycle minus. Preset mode allows you to kind of remap them on some standard layouts. So let's say just the standard WASD profile, it just automatically has a pre-loadout for you. You might have something for a gaming, like if you want to do a first-person shooter mode, it just remaps these keys to be the left analog stick, and the rest are just the normal keyboard things. So there's some nice little presets that are predefined in there. Now, up in the top right corner, there's the simple and advanced options. The simple is what we just were in. Advanced is a little bit different, and I think over time this advanced will become a lot more full-featured. But one thing I wanted to point out that is relatively useful is when you select a key, you can reassign that key. And one thing that's not available on the simple one instead of the function keys of the keyboard, there are the mappings that you have for the F13 through F24 keys, which is really very useful because it allows you to map to maybe like a specific macro in auto hotkey or something like that. And I think that the ability to map those things is quite useful. Otherwise, it's pretty similar to what it is in the simple mode. It just gives you kind of a different perspective or different layout of how things are laid out. Macros are a little bit more in depth, but essentially you can have a macro where you, let's just say you want it to type the word happy, and you click on plus, and what you do is you click on record and you type the word happy, and then you stop it, and it automatically detected how long it took me to press each of those keys. If I wanted to just type it as fast as possible, you can adjust this input delay to overall delay, and then just set this to like 3 milliseconds, and that forces all of them to be 3 milliseconds. So that will type the word happy as fast as possible. You can then select a key that you want it to assign to. I'm just going to press like the number 1 key, and so now I'm going to apply that, and you can see if I push the button, it just types happy. Pretty nice. So the last thing is profiles. And so the profiles are basically all of those settings of lighting and key mapping and macros are all tied to that right now, profile 1. So everything that I did in this profile is only going to happen in profile 1. If I switch to profile 2, everything is completely different. It has a different mapping of lighting and key mapping and different macros and everything. So there's a staggering amount that you can assign to each profile, and there's 24 profiles, a lot of things that you can do, and some really powerful things you can do. So one thing that I thought that was kind of cool to review would be the ability to set up a specific profile, and let's just say I want profile 24 to be this special profile. And what I'm going to do is on the key mapping, I'm going to set it up so that when I am in profile 24, I want each of my keys to be mapped to a different profile. So we're going to say, for example, we'll just make it simple, profile 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So when I'm in profile 24, I have profile 1, profile 2, profile 3, 4, and 5 all mapped to the corresponding keys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Now, when I'm in profile 1, I want a key that is mapped to profile 24 so I can get to like the profile selector. So I'm going to adjust this back again on my space key to be profile 24. So what that allows me to do is while I'm in profile 1, I want to be able to switch to 2, 3, 4, or 5 in a quick fashion. So what will happen is in profile 1, which I'm currently in, I can press my big old key here for my profile selector, that's 24, which will then take me all the way down to here, 24, and those mappings are profile 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what I can do, I'll show you. If I'm on profile 1, I'm going to push the big key on the control pad, and what that does is it switches me automatically down to 24. Then I'm going to push the second key on the key control pad and automatically selects profile 2. So now I can do everything that I wanted for my key mapping or colors or whatever I wanted to do all within that function. So now while I'm in profile 2, I want to again map this one to be a profile 24 key, and again on every single profile I have, I want this to be profile 24. It allows me to swap and switch back and forth between all my profiles using that key, and then select which of the other 23 profiles I want to activate. It's very powerful, very cool. But this got me thinking about some interesting things you could do. Since there's 24 profiles, you could technically set it up in such a way that the lighting can control like animation. So since video is in 24 frames, I thought, well, what if we set up a way that you could have 24 frames of video play on the control pad? And so what I thought I would do is try different patterns and things like that, and then assign the key mapping here for the profile to increase and decrease. So it would allow me to switch in between each of those 24 profiles by using the scroll wheel at the top, and then each of those individual profiles would have that same mapping for the scroll wheel, but the colors on here would change, and that would allow me to use the scroll wheel to move up and down between those profiles, and each of those profiles would have some different animation to play. So this is the kind of the result of what I did. I had things like a bird that was flying, that would move up and down its wings. Then I had like this circling kind of drain thing going. I made it so possible to have a corner rainbow effect kind of sweep back and forth across the control pad. This nice little rainbow snake that kind of rotates through winding pattern through the control pad. And then I thought, well, it might be kind of cool to make just a simple dot to kind of move around the screen by assigning those profile keys to swap in between each individual profile. So I kind of made it possible to control a dot moving around on the control pad by assigning specific profile selecting keys on those 4 buttons there in the bottom left corner. So I think it's really kind of cool what's possible with ControlPad, and I think you'll see that the more you use it, the deeper and more effective things you can program to have it do are pretty impressive.
So here we have Fallout New Vegas. For those that are unfamiliar, the game came out quite a while ago, but Bethesda games traditionally have issues using analog movement and mouse aiming at the same time. That's the state for like Skyrim and Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 and stuff like that. So games you're probably familiar with, usually if you plug in a controller, it will disable the keyboard and the mouse. But just this week I came across a mod for Fallout New Vegas that allows you to use analog movement and mouse aiming at the same time. So you have full analog control of your character using the control pad, and I'm using my mouse for perfect aiming precision and camera control. And this is a pretty phenomenal upgrade, because when you're playing role-playing games, it's kind of distracting if you're going to use like a keyboard up here. It's full movement like this, running everywhere you go. So I'm running in a town looking like a moron, versus if I wanted to just walk around in a town like this, I can just use my analog control to role play the experience. So it's kind of game breaking to have to play a game with a keyboard that has full movement. Otherwise you have to hold down the shift key or something like that. It's a much different experience to have direct control over exactly how you move. So I think this is a pretty impressive feat that this modder was able to come up with. So I wanted to show you kind of what's entailed to get this possibility. So if you go to this website at nexusmods.com. I'll put this link in the description below. But you can see there's a couple of files that you need to download. So one is the New Vegas script extender, and this is basically kind of a script framework that a lot of modders will use in New Vegas that leverages a bunch of different functionalities and things like that. And then you also will need to download this file from the modder here is Stewie. So if you download this function here, I'll show you where to put them. So basically in your New Vegas folder, the NVSE files will all need to be going into this directory, the same directory that has your main Fallout launcher program. And then also in the data folder and NVSE and plugins, you'll need to put in the NVSE Stewie tweaks.dll in there. By default, you won't have this INI file, but if you run the game just once and then close it out, it will write some files, this INI file here for you. And basically what you would want to do is open it up, and there's an option in here that is called allow keyboard and mouse with controller connected, and you just change it from 0 to 1, save this INI file, and that's it. You just at that point have analog movement and mouse aiming at the same time playing Fallout New Vegas, and it's a fantastic experience. It's the way I think the game should be played, because there's a lot of gunplay and things like that that require nice precise aiming, and you have great analog movement if you want to sneak around and play a stealth-based type of character. You can do that. So I think this is it's a phenomenal upgrade for a pretty old game, but it shows that people, if they are diligent enough, can come up with solutions that meet your needs, and I think it's pretty impressive. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed that video. You found some insight into how to use the Cooler Master control pad in some unique, fun ways. as well as how to add analog movement and mouse aiming to Fallout New Vegas, which was previously not possible until just this week. If you like this video and want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching.